I'd like to talk to you today about the night that changed my life. I was working a busy Saturday night service at a pub in Hobart, and I was emptying the waste bin, which is where everything at the bottom of glasses goes before they hit the dishwasher, so ice, fruit, plastic straws. And as I was emptying this bin on this particular night, I was throwing out literally hundreds of straws. And I thought to myself, for the first time in nearly 8 years in the industry, if this is how many plastic straws I'm throwing out from one night in one bar in Hobart, then how many straws are being thrown out every day across metropolitan Melbourne, across Australia, across the world as a whole? So I went home that night and I did a little bit of research, and I found some numbers that shocked me. 500 million plastic straws are used and thrown away every single day, just in the United States. By the year 2050, it's expected that there will be more plastic in the ocean by weight than fish. In that same year, that every seabird will have plastic in its digestive system. Plastic doesn't degrade in landfill conditions. It was designed not to. And microplastics, they are having a detrimental effect on our ocean ecosystem from the bottom up. This was the night that I decided I needed to do something about this. So I started The Last Straw, a campaign to reduce the use of plastic straws in venues around Australia. Now, the campaign works in two key ways. The first way is engaging with the hospitality industry itself, so working with bars, restaurants, cafes, pubs, and asking them to do one key thing: to adopt a policy of giving straws out on request only. The other part of the campaign is working with the wider community, and again asking them to do one simple thing: to order their drink without a straw in the same way that they would in a tall glass or without ice. Now, these two actions put together, with a little bit of help from social media, help start to change the waste narrative in Australia. So over the last 4 years, The Last Straw has close to 1,000 member venues across the country. We've been featured in most major media sources like The Project, Triple J, War on Waste. And at the end of last year, an independent report said that in the year 2018 alone, Last Straw venues have been responsible for stopping 13 million plastic straws from entering the waste system. So it's been an incredible 4 years. Now, when I was asked to talk today, I sat down and did a bit of reflection about what it was that made this campaign a success, why it was that this little piece of plastic sparked so many people's imaginations and motivated so much change. And I came up with 3 things that I'd like to share with you today. 3 small steps to change the world. The first is that in order to enact any real change, you first need to change people's minds. Now, I started The Last Straw in 2015, nobody, and I cannot stress this enough, nobody cared about plastic straws. It was a total non-issue. My target audience was the wider community, of which most people either didn't know about or were completely indifferent to the issue of plastic waste. So my challenge was to convince them that this tiny little plastic tube that had been an almost daily convenience in their day-to-day lives for years and years was suddenly a problem. But more than that they needed to do something about it. Now, a lot of issues-focused campaigns, and I think this is especially true of the environmental movement, tend to employ a lot of doomsday messaging, a lot of end-of-the-world type stuff, which is effective if you're already engaged with that movement, that conversation. But for people that aren't, it can be incredibly alienating. It's like the most ridiculous paradox of our time, that we're literally living in an existential climate crisis, but that doesn't translate from a comms perspective. So with The Last Straw, I wanted to create a campaign that was opportunity focused, that used humour and images and words that brought people into a conversation, rather than making them feel like they were stupid for not understanding the finer points of climate science. And little by little, one by one, conversation by conversation, people started to change their minds about plastic straws. Which brings me to my next point, is that once you change people's minds about something, it becomes infinitely easier to change the way that they act towards that thing. So if someone comes to me and says, I really love what you do with the last straw, how can I be involved? I don't say, you need to change everything about your lifestyle. You need to become completely zero waste and you need to have done it by yesterday. If that is the standard of engagement when it comes to the waste movement, when it comes to the climate movement, there are so many people who are going to say, no, that's too much. That's not for me. So with the last straw, what I wanted to do was find something for people to do. That was three things. That was simple, replicable, and scalable. So something that almost anyone could do, almost anywhere, at almost any time. Asking people to order their drinks without straws when they're already ordering a drink. Asking venues to stop serving straws when they were already serving people. These are really simple actions, but done on a mass scale, started to have a whole lot of change momentum behind it. Which brings me to my third point. And at this stage, there are probably a couple of you sitting in the audience thinking, well, it's all well and good, Eva, but a bunch of people in Australia changing their minds and changing their actions towards plastic straws doesn't really do a lot to address that issue of ocean plastics you were talking about at the start. And to that, I would say, you are absolutely correct. Plastic straws are by no means the biggest threat to our ocean systems and our waterways, by density. At last count, that was discarded fishing gear. But if I know one thing for sure, it's that it is so much easier to create a viral campaign that gets on the public agenda about something that is in everybody's everyday life, something that they can relate to, rather than the more obscure, but potentially more impactful fishing gear. What I learned was that when you give someone something to do that's simple, that's easy, that doesn't take them too far out of their way, that doesn't cost them too much money, but most importantly, that makes them feel good, that makes them feel like they're making a difference, they are so likely to take that action again. But not only that, they're also highly likely to engage in other similar actions towards positive change that make them feel good. Like bringing a keep cup with them to work to get their coffee in the morning, bringing bags with them to the supermarket, starting a compost bin in their home, or maybe even investing in that new tech startup that's helping to get discarded fishing gear out of the ocean. These incremental steps towards change over a long time become a change of behaviour. And that is really the catalyst that is going to end up changing this world. So those are the three things that I wanted to share with you today about the journey of the last straw and why it became such a success. And these are also three things that I think could be applicable to any other socially focused campaign: a change of mind, a change of action, and a change of behaviour. Now, I was a bartender in Hobart on a Saturday night when I had the realisation that changed my life. Before that point, I had never considered plastic straws or plastic waste in general was a problem. So I think the most important thing that I've learned through this whole journey that I'd like to leave you with today is that we need to stop just talking to the people that are already listening to us. We need to stop just preaching to the choir. We need to be looking at innovative ways to bring the people that aren't necessarily already on our side into the conversation. Because the challenges that we face as a world, we need as many hands on deck as possible in order to shift the trajectory of our world. As Howard Zinn once said, small actions, when multiplied by millions, will change the world. Thank you.